Everybody, I am so happy to have this special guest with me right now. Her name is, you see her on the wall using the initials TS, and she comes through with like guns blazing, just shooting everybody down. So I just love this lady, and I was very, very happy that this opportunity to talk one-on-one with her actually came up. Now, the reason why we're doing this is some weeks ago, she made a comment that really caught my eye, and she was talking about how men, women have a lot of false perceptions of men, a lot of pie in the sky stuff based on Disney fairy tales and whatever fantasies they've created in their head. And she had a very unique experience as a young woman working in an all-male environment. And she, in a relationship, and I mean, she had no reason to be trying to get at these guys or anything. But she was saying she was expressing how she had tried to share what she was seeing and hearing with women, and they just didn't want to hear it. So I raised my hand. I said, well, they might not want to hear, but I do. So that's why she's here today. So let me get her on here. This is our girl, TS. Okay, let's see. Did I click it? Did I unmute you? I don't know what's going on. Anyway, you have to unmute yourself, it looks like, because I tried to do it and it's not cooperating.
Okay, how's that?
There you go. Okay. Yeah, I'm pressing the button and it's just like, ha, 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 ha.
I'm here.
Okay, now tell us, let's go back to that time. Let's start by you telling who you are now.
Okay, sure. Well, I'm Teresa, and I'm TS on Deb's board, and I'm here in Florida right now. I've gone through so many iterations of careers, and right now I'm let's call it a medical coder. It's not really coding, it's more than that, but it's not interesting and it's too much to explain right now.
Okay.
So, I'm a happy, soon to be 60-year-old woman over here next month. I can't believe it. And, I love your show, Deb, and I just so admire you telling the straight story. Whether people want to hear it or not, it'll, how can I say, it'll make inroads when it's supposed to.
I love it. Okay. So let's get started, and so take us back to the time that you were referencing in this comment, in that comment. What year are we talking about?
Yes, that was 1980, believe it or not.
Okay.
1980, I was 20 years old.
And that was here in California, correct?
It was. And I don't want to be long-winded because it's a long story. So do you want me to just kind of give you the highlights of how I ended up in that job?
Yeah, because I was really curious. So,
Yes.
Said you were the first woman and the only woman, and that's 1980. So I'm like, okay, what were they doing? So I'm very curious to hear, how that happened.
Exactly. And the way I got that job, certainly no one wanted to give it to me. I really had to fight for it. So I'll try to keep the highlights, don't want to get off on a tangent too much. So I was new to San Diego, I was biding my time there. I just want to set up why I even applied for a job like that. Okay. So I was biding my time in San Diego because I wanted to establish my residency to be able to get free tuition at the community colleges. Because if you're native Californian, you know at that time. Okay. So I was working odd jobs. I was working at a landscaping company, and I was making $3 an hour. And I found out that the young men who were working there, who weren't that much older than me, were making close to $10 an hour. Yes.
Are you kidding?
No, exactly. That was my reaction too. Exactly. And, granted, I gave a little leeway because they were outside and doing the physical work, but I wanted to be doing physical work. I did not want to be sitting in that shack in the beautiful San Diego weather,
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was the sort of the impetus for me to, I started thinking, I had some factors. I want to work outside, I want to be active, and I need to make more than $3 an hour. And at that time, I didn't have much education. I had my high school, and I had, at that time, maybe a few months of, after I had established my residency, I had a few credits, let's say I didn't have much. So I had an acquaintance, and he was a lineman for Bell Telephone, and it was a monopoly then. And he told me, don't bother to apply with Bell because it's a union. It was a union shop at that time. Bell Telephone. Mm-hmm. Remember when it was a monopoly?
I remember when it divested and became Pacific Bell and I don't know, something else in the Mountain Bell or something. And yeah, they broke it up.
Yeah. So this is how long ago this is. I mean, I'm sure many of your viewers weren't even born yet.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Yeah. So it was a long time ago. So he told, okay, let me carry on with the stories. He said, why don't you try cable television because it's up and coming? And it was. And there was a cable company in the town over. And that company was not a rinky-dink company. It was a company that owned, I don't want to say the name of the company, but they were a substantial company in Southern California. So I applied, and believe it or not, I got the interview. And when I was thinking of this time, I thought, why did I even get that interview? And now it dawns on me 40 years later, they probably just wanted like a joke to see who I was. Who is this female applying for a job like this? That's what I think now, because they did, bring me in for an interview. Okay, so this is where it starts with okay, let me just tell you about the interview. So I go to the interview and I go in, he's asking me the normal interview questions. Then he asks me if I have a boyfriend. And here I am, a 20-year-old, yeah. I said, yes, I do have a boyfriend. Then he asked me some more interview questions. Then he asked me, do you live with your boyfriend? And at this time, I started thinking, what does living with my boyfriend have to do with this job? Okay, so then it was dawning on me. The first question, okay, it's a shock when you hear it.
Right.
You don't think anything. Okay. Then a few more questions, and then he asked me to pick up this big ladder, which we did have to use in that job. And I picked it up fine. I was strong. I was young. Okay, interview over, and the next person was waiting outside of the garage. And he was coming in for the interview, and woman's intuition told me, don't leave. Don't leave that area and listen to his interview with, I don't know if I should say the guy's name, but Jay, his name was, I'll just say Jay.
Letter J, okay.
Letter J. I remember their names to this day, believe me, because the interview was in a big open garage, so I could stand right outside and hear everything. And so I listened to the interview, and he never asked Joe if Joe had a girlfriend. He never asked Joe if he lived with his girlfriend, and he didn't make Joe pick up any ladder, and Joe wasn't much bigger than I was. All right.
Really?
Yes. So here I am thinking, this is discrimination. This is sexist discrimination. It's like, disrespect when you feel it, right? And that's how I felt. Even though I was young, I knew it was wrong. So let me fast forward a little. I know I'm going on and on. I went home. I was really bothered about this. And of course, I called later. And of course, I didn't get the job. They told me that. And but I would not let it go. So what I did is I made an appointment with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in San Diego, called them, went down there, had an interview with them, and they said, yes, miss, you do have a case. And I was happy. I was very happy because I needed that job. That was a good paying job at that time for my skill level.
Right.
I have a lot of skills now.
Working for the cable company is still, with a high school diploma, is still a great career choice. I know people working for cable up here making over $100,000.
Yeah.
It's supervisors, yeah.
Exactly. And I knew my limitations at that time. I didn't have much yet. I mean, now I'm okay, but at that time, okay. So I went there and they filled out all the paperwork. I remember it was a lot of paperwork. I had to go down a couple of times. And then they presented the paperwork to this company. As I mentioned, this was a substantial company in Southern California at that time. And boy, they were not impressed with me. They didn't want to give me the job. They thought I would be a real big troublemaker because I spoke up for myself, because I wasn't putting up with this nonsense. So again, I'll skip over all the details because it's too much. It was a lot of back and forth, and I didn't back down. So they had to give me the job because I was not backing down at all. And they gave
Good
me
for
the
you.
job.
I love it.
I mean, I don't mean to sound like I'm boasting, but I was, I was that angry and that adamant and that in survival gear. Who's going to survive on $3 an hour?
Right.
So anyway, so that brings me up to getting the job. So
And you had already kind of put a bee in their bonnet, so they was probably waiting for you.
Oh, man, oh man. When I walk, okay, so remember, I'm 20 years old. Now I would walk in guns blazing because I have a lot of life experience, but then I was just 20 years old, right? So I'll never forget that day. I walked in that same garage and they were having a meeting that morning. And at that time, I'd say there were probably 8 guys there. The company grew and I was with them for 5 years, so there grew to be more. But at that time, there were about 8, and they were all sitting in a circle, and I walked in and I was shaking. I was so nervous. I was, but I didn't want them to see it,
Right.
I really was. I was nervous, but I knew I had to swallow it, and I was there. I fought to get it. I got it. Now I can't crumble now. So I know I'm being long-winded, so I'll take a break.
No, because I mean, this is all part of the buildup. I mean, once we get in there, then we can start talking about what they exactly did. But the first day is kind of sets the tone, right?
Exactly. And who did I have to work for? The one who interviewed me.
Of course.
So you can imagine how he just loved me. He couldn't wait to, get at me because I caused him trouble in the company.
Well, his mouth caused him trouble. He shouldn't have been asking stupid questions. He wouldn't have had that problem.
Hello, that's right. His mouth caused this trouble, and he thought he could just, now when I think about it, his mouth caused him trouble, and he didn't expect me to speak up. That's what it basically boils down to. So when I made that comment, what they're really like, I want to also just keep it in the context of I was out of my lane in their eyes. I'm talking about. I'm not making any excuses for them, but it's in this box where here I was. I wanted this job. I fought for this job, and their attitude was, "Who does she think she is?" That's really what it was. Who does this young? And later I found out that I heard them talking that they were saying about me when I walked in that first day, she thinks her doesn't smell. That's what they were saying about me. I was petrified, but see how they viewed me? See what they thought?
Jerks.
Jerks, real jerks. So now I can get into the nitty-gritty of the things they were doing. I'll just preface this by saying, and there's a reason I'm talking about this, is because there were 3 levels to that career. There was the installer, that's the lowest level. The next level is a service technician, where the person goes in and troubleshoots inside the house. And then the 3rd level is the maintenance tech, and that's when you only work on the outside lines. That's pretty much the highest you could go. You could have gone a little higher to microwave, but those were the tip-top jobs. And I say that because I eventually got promoted to maintenance tech.
Did you? Congratulations.
I did, in 5 years. And I say this because when I was thinking about this time to be able to talk to you about it, I realized that when I was an installer, when I was at the low level, they didn't bother me too much. They looked at me kind of like I was an animal in a zoo, and they were going to, just kind of watching what I was going to do. But they weren't blatantly doing things. It's when I started getting promoted.
Because then you were a threat.
Then I was a big threat. And how dare she come in this, Okay.
She's taking our jobs.
Exactly. So and I was learning. I was young. I wasn't stupid, but the years hadn't given me the wisdom or anything. So when I was an installer, as I mentioned, I had to work for that man who interviewed me. And there was only one episode that came to my mind when I was an installer. He wanted me to fail big time. So when we had to, again, this was long ago, so we had to climb utility poles. Now everything's underground, but we had to climb utility poles. And some poles had no, how can I say, those brackets?
Oh, the foot rung things.
Exactly. Many had, and those were great, but some did not have. So you had to put what were called gaffs on your calves and like smash your leg into the pole and get yourself up to the top. I had never done anything like this in my life. And who's training me? Him, the one who interviewed me, the one who I brought the case against.
Oh man, they set you up.
Oh my God. So he takes me out. Okay. And Deb, stop me if I'm getting too detailed. Okay?
Oh, no. No, this is interesting.
Okay. So we are, all the other guys who had to learn too, right? They all started somewhere just like I did. They were taken, because later I found out, a lot of things later I found out, you know what I mean? When it was happening to me, I didn't know. So when we were being trained to do that, we were supposed to be trained on soft,
adjust your mic down a little bit.
Okay,
yeah,
how's that?
Let's see.
Is that better? Okay.
Because we're starting to lose you.
Okay, so we had to, we were supposed to be trained on soft, dark wood so that you can smash that gaff into the wood safely to get you up. Do you know that took me out to, people won't notice these things unless you know, but it's like a white utility pole, and that's made out of a different wood, a very hard wood, like a cypress wood. And there's no way you can get that gaff in there, no way. And he told me, do it, climb it. I said, I'm not climbing that thing. I can't even get my gaff in there. He said, well, I'm going to tell, again, I don't want to say names, S, who was our supervisor. I'm going to tell S you can't do it. I said, you go ahead and tell S. Here is when I was getting angry. I said, I'm not killing myself to learn how to do this. And then he relented and took me to the kind of pole he was supposed to take me to learn. So right away he was, yes. Yeah. Oh, he hated me. You can imagine how much he hated me.
Yeah, but you know what? Okay, you might be mad, but you don't put somebody in a situation where they could lose their life because you're mad.
Deb, I have another situation where they did that when I was a maintenance tech. Yes. Okay. That's what I meant when what they're really like. You know what I mean? Like seething. And he was seething at me. You could feel his energy. Of course, he hated me, of course.
Because you challenged him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I wanted to just go back briefly to that day I walked in, the first day and the first couple of days when I was there. I could, now again, thinking back, a couple of them were just so hostile. And they never changed through the 5 years I was there. They just didn't. They were hostile. They stayed hostile. I say that because a couple of the others, again, I said that they were looking at me like I'm an animal in the zoo. What is she here for? What is she going to do? They weren't that bad later on once I proved myself.
Right.
But, one of the things I learned is once they're hostile and they hate, they don't change. Right. And they are hostile and they hate.
And that just sounds like, considering the circumstances, far over and above what is even normal.
Yeah.
Even reasonable to have that much negative energy to put towards someone that you work with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. Okay, let's see. So you worked as the tech. So what happened when you got the next level promotion? How did you notice them change?
Yeah, that's what I also have to say another thing when I made that comment, what they're really like, a lot of jealousy. And I was thinking, why would men be jealous of me? That was my thinking. I'm just a young woman coming in here. And when I say jealousy, what I mean is because I was such an oddity out there, of course, when people saw me at the door to install their cable or do their service, they were shocked. I got all kinds of comments. And I had to be, that saying, I had to work twice as hard to be considered half as good. And that's really what I had to be perfect. I had to leave that place clean. I mean, I would have anyway, but
right.
You know what I'm saying? So I bring this up because I got a lot of commendations from the public. They were calling in, they were writing in letters, they were saying, who is this nice young woman who came? And, and they weren't getting any letters.
Well, sucks for them.
So anyway, that's what I mean about the jealousy part. Okay, so again, I'm getting off the track. So when I was
so
a tech,
childish.
So weird and childish. Yes, so bizarre. And I also think that they just thought I was going to fail when I was an installer. So instead of failing, here I am rising, and that bothered them.
Now, Teresa, let me ask you this. I forgot to ask you this earlier. Were you, actually, you were the only female, were you also the youngest? Or was there anyone like younger than you that came on your team?
That I have to say I was the youngest. Yes, I was also the youngest.
Okay.
I don't remember anyone younger than me. The men, I would say at that point, were probably, the majority were from mid-20s to 40 maximum.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were also young. They were older than me, but young. Yeah.
So you're getting all these commendations, all these kudos and accolades and attention and positive strokes, and then you get a promotion.
Right. And at first, okay, again, too much detail. Let's skip that detail. It didn't go that smoothly, but it went. I finally got it because he gave it to somebody else first because he was a man, and I was pissed off about that, but I swallowed it. I swallowed a lot, I have to say, because I think young women wouldn't do that now, but at that time, I was the only
things
one.
Were different.
It was different. It was different. So anyway, I swallowed it and waited for he gave me the promotion to service tech. Okay, that's when I jotted down a few notes remembering that time. I found tampons in the back of my work truck because I had a truck. That's how I worked out of a truck. They would throw tampons in the back of my work truck, and so stupid. I mean, really, I just,
What are we, 12 years old here?
I kid you not. These guys, and again, I'll preface it by saying not all of them, but the majority of them, there were.
You know what I would have done? They have those kind of things that says it helps your Johnson grow bigger. Chuck in their truck.
Well, now I would. Now I definitely would. Now I would definitely say something.
Knuckleheads.
As I mentioned, I kept my mouth shut a lot then because it was a different time, and then I needed that job. So, okay, so that was one thing. And then another time I remember, we had so much freedom in this job because we had our route and we had our truck and there were no cell phones. There were nothing.
That's true. Only what do they have? Pagers.
Not even pagers. We had radios in the truck.
Oh.
Radios to dispatch and radios to each other. So we could call, 10-9 and all that stuff. And I was mobile 18 and somebody else was mobile 36. So, we could talk like that. So again, how they set you up and silly. I wouldn't say I was silly. I was naive. Okay. So we were on that was the beach route and everybody loved the beach route. So these guys were gathered at an apartment building, 3 or 4 trucks. And I was also on the beach route. So they said, hey, Teresa, we're over here at, this address. Come on by, swing on by. And me, okay, fine. Oh, how great. They're my friends now. Okay, so I drive over there, get out of the truck. They're all hanging around the truck. And they were talking and they were trying to get me to say something like, what am I going to do next? Or something like, okay, again, not to get too technical, but there was a thing that we used to have to do where we went to check the amplifiers. And that was a job that you could do, and really nobody knew where you were or anything, you know. So a lot of people would say, oh, I'm going to check the amplifiers, and they'd go home, or they'd do some stuff, you know, let's just say stuff. I know what they were doing, okay, but I don't want to say too much. You can imagine, all right. Yeah, you can imagine. So they were all standing around, and what they were doing, one guy, D, I remember his name too, he was holding down the button on the radio so that everything we were saying, dispatch could hear. And he was trying to set me up to say something that I was going to do wrong on the job. Yes. And that D, he was older. I remember he was already in his late 30s. I remember because he was going through a divorce. Yes, they were just trying to set me up. I found out later, thank goodness, there was a cool woman in dispatch. And she said, Teresa, you know, we heard everything you were saying. But do you see how they invited me over there to do that?
I mean.
Yeah. And Deborah, the last thing I'll tell you, so there were a few more other things when I was a service tech, but it was when I was a maintenance tech that, again, with the dangerous stuff, they don't, okay, so then I got promoted to be a maintenance tech. And by that time, okay, that job, I never went in homes anymore. It was just all outside work. And 1 week a month, we had to be on call. And what that meant is, let's say the whole neighborhood's cable went out in the middle of the night in a storm. I had to go out because I was a maintenance tech. And every maintenance tech had a backup tech, so that if it got bad, which it often did in storms, that backup tech would come and help whoever is on call. Well, this night, I'll never forget, it was like January in Southern California with those storms that come in, and it was late at night, and I was on call, and a neighborhood went out, and I had to go out there, and I needed help. And I called my backup, and he was nowhere to be found. And he's supposed to. That is very serious, because I was the only one out there.
Right.
And he didn't answer. Nothing. He was gone, AWOL, completely gone. And so that's dangerous. You know, anything could have happened. And okay, so the next day I went, and I didn't even tell my supervisor. You see how I was at that time? I was so wanting to hang on to that job. But I told one of my coworkers, one of the decent guys, and he was so angry. I'm talking about the decent guy. He went and told my supervisor, and he said, this is BS, because we all knew this one who didn't come to help me was one of those hostile ones. So they even knew it, you know. So that was dangerous. And one more dangerous thing they did for me was they cut my, when I was a maintenance tech, we had a big like spotlight that we plugged into remember lighters, and you plugged them in and it gave the juice to, okay. And I needed a spotlight to be able to fix the lines, and they cut my spotlight and they taped it back up so that I wouldn't notice until I was out there in the middle of the night with no spotlight. And that's exactly what happened. And then I saw that they had cut it. They cut it. Unbelievable. So that's when I started thinking, these guys are sick, man. Some of them. Yeah.
I mean, it's like all these things that they're thinking are, when you think about it, what is the point of this? You could have been killed in any one of these instances. And what is that? This is worth your life because their feelings are hurt because there's a woman on the team?
Yes, and they certainly didn't do it to the male coworkers. They wouldn't cut anyone's line like that. Anybody's light, the line on the light. No, they were hostile. It was hate. You could feel it.
Man, that's another case right there.
Yeah. So that's why when I even forget what I remember the original comment on your show was, women, what's the word, defending them, in general, defending the stupid things men do.
Mm-hmm.
And, these guys would, I'm sure the one who cut the line was saying good morning to me the next morning. I don't know which one it was who did that, but I'm sure he was saying good morning to me, and I'm sure they were all having a good laugh at my expense.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
And probably,
Yeah.
the ones who are all in on it, giving each other ideas and high fives and everything for their creativity and strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's why I made the comment, what they're really like. And when they lured me with that radio, that was a lure. They planned what they were going to do. They were holding down the button the whole time I was talking. So
I just don't understand it. So when you went out and you were trying to tell women about how these guys really were, what kind of responses did you get back?
Well, as I mentioned, they just would they wouldn't call me a man hater to my face, but they would just say, oh, they're not all like that. Or I heard of one woman who was working in the garage there. She worked with the converters, and she would say, well, to do this kind of job, you have to be a woman like Teresa, a girl. She didn't even say woman. You have to be a girl like Teresa, as if it was an insult to be a girl like me, because my nails weren't long and I wasn't, and I was making decent money. But but anyway, getting back to the women, they just didn't want to believe it. They would say, they wouldn't say I don't believe it, but what am I trying to say? They didn't believe it. They didn't want to think all men are like that. And of course, all men are not like that, but they all have the capacity.
Right. And I think they all are, but they just show it on different levels and under different circumstances, because I have not met a man yet who does not feel entitled to more than a woman, faster than a woman, better than a woman. Even though they may kind of question themselves, and correct their thinking afterwards, they still thought it. They still acted on it. And so when women say that, I just look at them and say, well, you live a few more years and you'll see that your thinking is all kinds of messed up.
Yeah. It was, and as I mentioned, I stopped, I just stopped saying anything because I could see they weren't in that environment. They had their fantasy thinking of what they're like. And maybe these men were angels with them. Maybe that's why they couldn't see it. But they certainly weren't angels when they were there. I mean, not to be too gossipy, but I know at least two of them were having affairs because they were on the road all the time. And they would,
and they were married.
Oh, definitely they were married. Absolutely. And we had such freedom, really, because we had these trucks and we had our route. We picked up our route in the morning and we were off on the route. And the only way to contact us was these radios. And if we didn't pick up the radio, we would just say, well, we were up on the pole or in the house. We didn't hear anything. So they could be doing anything, and they were doing anything. Not all of them. I have to, preface that, but the two that I know of definitely were. And you
can bet it was more. Yeah. This is really kind of interesting. So when you finally reached the top and got ready to get out of there, how were they treating you at, like your final months?
What a great question, because this again, by that time I was 25 years old, because I mentioned I had stayed there 5 years. And so I was a little more mature. And I just thought how weird some of these guys are. When I was leaving, oh, Teresa, we're going to miss you. Except the hostile ones. The hostile ones were still hostile. But the others giving me cards. I'm going to miss you. You have a fetching smile. It's been a pleasure to work with you. And I'm just thinking, really, I just thought they are so weird. They are just too bizarre for me, But a couple, I do have to say, two, they were, how can I say, they were decent with me. They really were. There was that one I told you about that reported my
up.
backup tech. Yeah. And I'm still semi-friendly with him on Facebook. He really was a decent guy. And the other one, they helped me. For some reason, I didn't threaten them. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I didn't threaten them, and I could sense that. I could feel that. And they were showing me shortcuts on the job, and just things like that. So they were okay, but there were only two of them.
So you were talking about, okay, by the time you left, the crew had grown to about 15, you said?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So 2 out of 15.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Plus,
yeah.
we knew that supervisor was junk, so that's really 16.
Yeah. And he, I don't even think he was there by the time I left, come to think of it. I think he fell by the wayside. Yeah, I don't remember him being there when I left. But my supervisors, when I went to be a tech and a maintenance tech, they were okay too. They were pretty decent. I can't,
okay.
Who knows what they were really thinking about me, but they treated me fine.
Right. Well, they had enough sense to keep their personal feelings and their professional actions separate. What bothers me the most when I hear stuff like this and the women defend those kind of guys, no matter where he acts a fool and who he acts a fool with, that is your man's character. Now, he may not be that way with you, but if he's that way with anybody else who he considers to be beneath him, a woman, a waiter, a bus boy, a valet, anything like that, and he talks to them crazy and does little nasty things, that's your man's character. Your man is a jerk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And, I remember once too, one of the hostile ones when I first started, they would say comments right in my earshot, leave and don't let the door hit you on the way out. They just, yeah, they wrote, it sounds silly and innocuous now, but I went in the men's bathroom because we had two, but it was just a one toilet bathroom. So one was for the women, one for the men. The women's was busy. I went in the men, and there was writing all over the wall. Of course, it was disgusting, but I had to go. And
go to the men's bathroom, you come out itching like a crackhead.
And it's a little thing, but someone wrote on the bathroom wall, "Terrible Teresa," and then there was some stick figure of a. Oh, they're so childish. I just
mean, they act like they're 7. Jesus.
And the thing that got me, okay, so I see this and I walk out and I don't know who did it.
Right.
It's like with the cut line, who did it? I have my suspicions. So who is being sweet to my face and really wants me to fail big time?
Not only want you to fail, trying to make sure that you do. And you get some kind of serious injury and possibly die.
Yeah.
Fall off that pole or something.
Yes, absolutely. It was no joke. When I got to maintenance tech, I realized it was no joke with some of these. What can I even call them? Yes, that time I was, that was a wake up call. The other stuff was annoying, and they were just jerks. But that stuff was dangerous. Yeah.
Well, this just your mic. Your mic keeps flying up.
Sorry.
They put it down now? So it should be down to like right here.
Okay, is that good?
Yeah. Now this is how I want to finish up with this, because we have a lot of young women in similar situations where they're getting bullied at work by like a group of coworkers. And since you've been through that and you came out on the other side, do you have any tips for how to, successfully navigate a situation like that? What should someone do or say, or think for them? What kind of tips do you have to make it be a little easier for them to deal with?
Sure. Well, we all have different personalities, and very often I wish I had your more confrontational, which is good. I'm saying that with all praise, because my way of dealing with things was non-confrontational.
Well, you're only 20 though.
Yeah. As I mentioned, I ate a lot, but I stuck it out. And at that time, and with those men, that's what I had to do to prove myself. Okay. Saying that, remembering then I was 20, But now, forget about that time. If for young women now, because I see what the world is like for them, and my goodness, don't they somehow, the young women have to muster up the strength to confront these bullies. And because I think for so many women and young women, and I was guilty of this myself too, it's like you swallow it, and that's not good. So if I were to say anything, is somehow muster the strength to stand up to them. And as you often say, keep your emotions in check. Don't scream at them, don't yell at them, just tell them, I know what you're doing and it's wrong. And you know it's wrong too. Who knows if it'll get through to them, but just let them know that I know what you're doing to me.
Right.
I'm not stupid.
I think that is a large part of it, because when women are kind of afraid and don't acknowledge it, they do think that you're stupid and you don't recognize what's going on. And, like they're getting away. I don't know. They're just so strange. Like they're getting away with stuff, and they're like, act like they're 5, and, they're all excited about the little tricks they're playing and stuff, and how they're like ganging up on someone. It's just so stupid.
Yeah.
And I've gotten it, from males and females. Yeah. And stuff. So you imagine all of that you went through, and you're going through that not only because you're the only woman, but because you're the only Black person. It's like amplified. That's so you're double. Getting it from all sides, men and women. And I started working in corporate America when I was 16 years old, and what an education it was. I could probably tell some stories myself. But I definitely wanted to hear yours, because it was so, being in an environment where it was all men, that's what really caught my attention so much. Not mine, it was like mixed. But I'm glad you made it out on the other side.
Thank you.
And I think it was good it was a good experience for you, because it toughened you up, didn't it?
It certainly did. It certainly did. Because that really is a tender age, 20, and I matured a lot, and I learned a lot about them. And when I was leaving, it was my decision to leave, and I never again would ever want to be now life is different, but I would never want to be the only female in all men. Later in my later 30s, I was in the tech world for a little bit, and I ran into those jerks too, don't we always, that macho BS. But it wasn't as bad, and it was tempered because at least there were some women there. It wasn't only just them. But It's like when it's all them, they're like a dog pack or something. One says something and they all, like you've said, jump on it. Like a pack mentality.
That is men. That is exactly how they are.
Very few, as I keep saying, only those 2 didn't join in with them. Maybe they did join in and I didn't know, but I didn't see it.
Right.
The 2 decent ones, they weren't that way. But
it was especially the one who went in and jammed up your boss about that guy's action. I couldn't see him stepping out like that and then turning around. That would just be too, you know what I mean? It would be like he's like flipping around. He's got 2 sides to his face. He's standing up for you publicly, and then he's going to go and join in with the knuckleheads and clown publicly. That would seem to be kind of odd. Yeah. So him, I think I would give a pass to. The other one may be a question mark.
Yeah. Well, as I say, he didn't strike me as one that did that.
Right.
Who knows what they were doing behind, closed doors or whatever they were doing. But yeah, it's true. So, but
well, girl,
oh my
thank
God,
you so much for sharing this with us. I think, especially your, the tip at the end, I think will give seeing how you made it through. And this is an example. I mean, you can do it. It's not going to be easy, but anything you set your mind to, you can make it happen. You made it happen at only 20 years old. Yeah. Like, no, I want that job. I want that pay, and I want that job, and this is mine.
And sometimes it's good to be young and naive, because you just rush in and it's like, I want it, I'm gonna get it.
That's how you have to be, though. As a woman, That's how you have to be. Well, I am so glad that we got to spend this time bonding. We'll have to do this again. We'll have to have a Zoom date where we sit here and drink tea.
Absolutely. Tea. Wine is better. Deb.
Yeah, well, I was just trying to be polite because it's kind of still a little early. It's not even 4 o'clock yet.
That's true. Here it's wine time, but.
Well, thanks you so much, T. I'll see you on the wall. I'm gonna try to get this up within the next couple of days.
Thank you so much, Deb. It's really been a pleasure.
Oh, I loved it too. Talk to you later.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.